This past Easter week saw President Trump embroiled in a whirlwind of legal challenges, immigration controversies, and international disputes. From the deportation of an American citizen to a potential shift in U.S. policy on Crimea, the week's events highlighted the far-reaching impact of Trump's decisions. At home, Trump's policies on immigration and government funding continued to draw criticism, while his foreign policy moves sparked debate both domestically and abroad. This essay will delve into the key events of Trump's Easter week, examining their implications and potential consequences. This week was a busy one for the Trump administration, with major developments on several fronts. From immigration to international relations, the president's actions have once again placed him at the center of global attention. As we navigate the complexities of these events, it is crucial to understand the facts and their potential ramifications. Let's take a closer look at the key issues that define Trump's Easter week. The case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an American citizen mistakenly deported to El Salvador, has ignited outrage and raised serious questions about the Trump administration's immigration policies. Garcia, who was born in the United States but spent part of his childhood in El Salvador, was deported despite having no criminal record and possessing a U.S. birth certificate. He is currently being held in a Salvadoran prison, highlighting the human cost of the administration's aggressive deportation tactics. Senator Chris Van Hollen, who has been advocating for Garcia's return, met with him in El Salvador and condemned the deportation as an illegal abduction. The White House, however, has indicated that it will not facilitate Garcia's return to the United States. This case underscores the potential for grave errors in the implementation of the administration's immigration policies and raises concerns about due process and the rights of American citizens. The Trump administration's decision to invoke the Alien Enemies Act to justify the deportation of Venezuelan migrants has sparked widespread condemnation and legal challenges. The act, a relic of World War II, grants the president broad authority to detain and deport citizens of countries deemed enemy nations. Critics argue that the administration is abusing this power to target Venezuelan migrants for political reasons, as many are fleeing the Maduro regime, which the U.S. considers illegitimate. A federal judge recently ruled against pausing deportations under the act, but Venezuelan migrants have appealed the decision to the Supreme Court. Hundreds have already been deported to Venezuela, where they face an uncertain future in the midst of an ongoing humanitarian crisis. The use of the Alien Enemies Act in this context has raised serious concerns about the erosion of civil liberties and the rule of law. President Trump's foreign policy decisions continue to generate headlines and spark debate, both domestically and internationally. One of the most significant developments this week was the suggestion by Secretary of State Marco Rubio that the U.S. might be open to recognizing Russia's annexation of Crimea if it would help to achieve a diplomatic solution to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. This potential policy shift has been met with mixed reactions, with some praising it as a pragmatic approach, while others criticize it as a betrayal of Ukrainian sovereignty. Meanwhile, the U.S. continues to take a hard line against Iran, with President Trump reiterating his opposition to Iranian nuclear weapons. The U.S. envoy for Iran is currently engaged in talks with European officials in Rome, seeking to revive the stalled nuclear deal. However, the Trump administration's withdrawal from the deal in 2018 and its subsequent imposition of sanctions on Iran have significantly strained relations between the two countries. On the domestic front, President Trump made waves this week with a series of policy moves that target government employees, the IRS, and higher education. The president revived a controversial rule known as Schedule F, which makes it easier for the administration to fire career government employees and replace them with political appointees. Critics argue that this move undermines the civil service and opens the door to cronyism and corruption. In another significant development, Trump announced the replacement of IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig with James C. Shapley, a former federal prosecutor known for his tough stance on tax evasion. This change in leadership comes as the IRS faces criticism for its handling of audits of high-income individuals and corporations. Additionally, President Trump froze $2.2 billion in funding for Harvard University, demanding policy changes regarding anti-Semitism on campus. This move has been widely condemned by academics and free speech advocates. The plight of refugees seeking asylum in the United States continues to worsen under the Trump administration's restrictive policies. The administration's indefinite ban on refugees and its drastic cuts to refugee resettlement programs have left countless families stranded in limbo, uncertain of their fate. A recent court order requires the administration to provide a detailed schedule outlining its compliance with a previous ruling that mandates the processing and resettlement of tens of thousands of conditionally approved refugees. Advocacy groups have criticized the administration's slow pace in complying with the court order and have raised concerns about the adequacy of resources allocated to refugee resettlement. The ongoing crisis highlights the human cost of the administration's hardline immigration policies and the urgent need for a more compassionate and humane approach to refugee resettlement. President Trump's trade policies continue to have a significant impact on American businesses, with both positive and negative consequences. One notable example is the ongoing trade war with China, which has resulted in tariffs on billions of dollars worth of goods traded between the two countries. While the Trump administration argues that these tariffs are necessary to protect American jobs and intellectual property, they have also led to higher prices for consumers and businesses. In a recent development, Ford Motor Company announced that it would stop shipping vehicles to China due to the tariffs, highlighting the challenges faced by American businesses operating in the current trade environment. However, the company will continue importing the Lincoln Nautilus from China, demonstrating the complex interdependencies of global supply chains. The long-term impact of Trump's trade policies on the U.S. economy remains to be seen. President Trump's interactions with foreign leaders and his public statements continued to shape the global conversation this week. One notable event was his meeting with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, during which they discussed a range of issues, including trade, Ukraine, Iran, and Yemen. The meeting underscored the importance of the US-UK relationship, even as the two countries navigate a complex geopolitical landscape. In another development, Vice President Mike Pence met with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Rome, expressing confidence in the potential for a trade deal between the two countries. The meeting highlighted the Trump administration's efforts to strengthen economic ties with European allies. Meanwhile, President Trump's decision to have his former Mike Huckabee place a note in the Western Wall in Jerusalem has drawn criticism from some quarters, who view it as a politicization of a sacred site. As Easter week draws to a close, the Trump administration finds itself grappling with a multitude of challenges, both domestic and international. The legal battles over immigration, the ongoing trade disputes, and the potential for new foreign policy initiatives ensure that the coming weeks and months will be anything but quiet. The decisions made by President Trump and his administration will have far-reaching consequences, shaping the political landscape for years to come. It remains to be seen how these events will unfold and what impact they will have on the Trump presidency. One thing is certain: the world will be watching closely as President Trump navigates this turbulent period in his administration.